Good afternoon, one and all. The discussion for this session is building a robust digital campus. First of all, what is a campus? Campus is a place where we have the buildings, classrooms, laboratories, hostels, and where the knowledge is transferred from the faculty members to the students. But here, the digital campus, it is a virtual campus where no such classrooms are existing, and it is replicating the actual classroom. So here, it actually compasses the digital tools, digital platforms, digital resources through which actually the knowledge is transferred to the students. Now, what is the benefit of these digital classrooms? The people whom don't have the access to the place, they are from remote area, they are actually encouraged to pursue some of the programs. And also, the cost effectiveness is there. Like the hostel is not there, the classroom is not there, 150 acres land is not required. So obviously it will have a impact on the cost effectiveness. And then there is a larger audience can be addressed by a single resource person. For instance, in a classroom, maximum 60 or 70 students can be accommodated. But in the online learning, a large audience can be admitted by using a single resource person. And also the global networking is easily possible thanks to this online learning platform. So the point actually in March 2020, due to this COVID-19, there was a lockdown in the country. All the colleges, even the schools, which have no prior experience or without any preparedness, all the campuses moved towards this, digital learning. The campuses even which never encourage the students to bring the mobile phone or laptop or any electronic gadgets to the institute, they advise the students to make use of the electronic gadgets to have a digital learning. So, we faced a lot of difficulties while we started this program because of obvious we didn't have any prior experience. Most of the institutions, even in early 2010, moved towards this digital, using the digital technologies. The attendance was digital. When the students were entering, with the help of the image processing, the attendance was taken. All the fees transferred, everything was through online. It was digital. And, lot of digital tools were used to engage the classes. If the classrooms were engaged using lot of digital tools, then, digital libraries were there even in early 2000. So we used lot of digital things, but then it was actually the students came to the class and physically attended the classes. So there was no online classes as such. So it was a new experience to all of us. The COVID-19 made a big impact. So after that, now, by seeing this, many of the institutions are moving towards the hybrid or maybe the blended learning. So now in our panel session, we are going to discuss about, our elite panel members are going to discuss about building a robust digital campus. So with this, I would like to request Ganganeni Dhananjay sir to start with. Sir, what do you think the major challenges when you are establishing a robust digital campus?
Good afternoon. First of all, I thank BW Education for giving me this opportunity. It's a great platform, a lot of excellent academicians gathered here. So in this context, as sir told, a lot of challenges are being faced in campuses getting more digitalized. These challenges come in the form of, three stakeholders like students, faculty and management. And one of the important thing I want to emphasize is when you are being digitalized, the student want to have a single sign-on sort of thing. So student doesn't want to have, he would like to have seamless experience. Like for everything you should have single password and this thing, like when he enters a classroom, when he enters a library, when he accesses computer resources. So that is one of the challenges is building a lot of bandwidth in the institutions, because that comes at a cost. and and when we make Wi-Fi campus, and all these challenges are there where there are a lot of recurring costs. So in this sense, that is for all the process, we should make it digital, like admissions and their assessments, examinations. This is going progressively going on, but we need to be more sensitized to more increase the digitalization in the campuses. And these digitalization, from the perspective of faculty also, where their lectures are available in LMS systems like Moodle, and all these are all various aspects of the digitalization of the campuses, and this is being progressively implemented in various. And one more thing we have to, because in the morning also some of these things have come up, that we know that this YouTube is the biggest university, because everything is available there. And in my classroom, I use a lot of WhatsApp groups, so that the classroom is 24/7. It's not only when the lecture is there in front of them, but if you encourage the academic discussion in the WhatsApp group, it will continuous interaction is possible between the students, between the faculty. It's a sort of we are encouraging more interaction by using digital tools. And one more challenge I want to highlight from the point of view of management is that management feels it's a lot of huge investment is required when I am going for digital campuses in terms of networking and recurring costs. Like I am sending SMS for every student when they are not attending. So many issues are there in terms of hardware and software and maintenance and also security. Because this data is, when I am depending upon third-party people, third-party vendors, all my data goes to them. And they are demanding huge amounts for renewing their agreements. So initially they may offer very less fees and terms and conditions. Once all my student data, all this goes into their servers, when I want to renew my agreement, it becomes a big problem and they are charging heavily. So digitalization is going on, but slowly, and depending upon the place that institutes are there, it is slowly picking up.
Thank you for sharing the challenges on making a digital campus. Now, I request Dr. Malini ma'am to answer. In a digital campus, usage of electric gadgets becomes inevitable, which is a menace. Is it not, ma'am?
Thank you, and once again, I'd like to, at the outset, thank you for making me a part of this panel and enabling me to share my views. Now, one thing is, you look at the digital connectivity in India has gone from 12% to 48% in the last 1 decade. And by 2030, it is estimated that there will be 1 billion internet users in the country. So, I think our panelist has pointed out what are the benefits, and obviously there are economic benefits, there are outreach benefits to the digital factor. But I would like to share something that we are facing in the university. Now, 2 years, because of the pandemic, digital has become a way of life. It is no longer just a tool, it's a way of life. It's part of an extension of your body. I mean, there's hardly anybody, most people, I keep saying that, if a extraterrestrial lands on Earth, they will wonder what is this which is hanging on to the body. But the Indian Maritime University conducts common entrance tests for admissions, and we've been doing that for a decade. This pandemic years, the 2 years where people were learning only using digital tools, we find that the performance in the common entrance test has been pretty pathetic. So are we looking at, when we talk about digitalization, we talk about a digital campus, are we looking at 100% digital campus or a combination? Number one. Number two is, are we looking at digitalization for all courses or for select courses? For example, perhaps you can teach, some social sciences or history I don't think you can even teach geography digitally totally. And when it comes to science and technology, specific sciences like marine technology, you cannot do away with workshops, you cannot do away with, classroom teaching. So those are factors that we have to consider. But I'd like to point out a few things that can be done to overcome this, because that was part of your question. It is, digital learning is visual memory. So there is a lot of visual memory that helps in this. Creativity, because we find students who are given a free hand are actually able to create and actually come up with better means of communicating to each other, not just ordinary communication, but even technical communication. They come up with computerized versions that is more easily comprehensible to everybody. In fact, there is development even within the country of immersive learning, which is putting the classroom into a metaverse, so that you walk through the metaverse and actually understand how the engines work, how the turbines work, etc. So there's a lot of development that can be done. There is something called hybrid learning that many institutions have been attempting. And there's something called digital twinning in the engineering thing. Because what happens is you are looking at an aircraft engine, or you're looking at a ship engine. You create a digital twin, and the student learns from that digital twin rather than being exposed to a real engine. So these are all factors that can be done. But I'd like to just share one more. A long time back, I read an article, a journal article, professional journal article on cognitive science, saying how has cognitive learning process changed over the years, over the decades actually. They said there was a time, for example, 30 years ago, when a student could take one book, read it for 3 hours, sit there full attention. But that was also an era when the television didn't exist or existed in its primitive form in the country. So over a period of time, you have, like you keep zapping channels. You hardly focus, unless it's a cricket IPL match, you don't focus on a single channel for more than 5-10 minutes. And the article said that it has an effect on the mental learning process of the student. So a student who could concentrate for 3 hours in a book cannot concentrate for more than 10 minutes on anything that they read in a book or a teacher. So what was the solution which was suggested in that article is it has to be interactive. So when it comes to interactive, then this kind of tools, the digital tools are very, very useful in active, dynamic, real-time interaction. But having said all this, I mean, there's a lot more to say, but I can say I don't think there is an alternative to having a real teacher in front of the student. I don't think you can say we will do 100% digital and actually create bright minds. The proportion of creating bright minds, I'm not saying it cannot be done, because it depends on both the teacher as well as the student, how involved the teacher is, how passionate the teacher is, and how involved the student is. But the probability that you can create a very bright mind, a curious mind, an inquisitive mind by not having a teacher in front of you is probably very, very low. So I don't think there's a replacement. It is a tool that can supplement, it can complement, it can enhance, but it cannot replace the teacher. The one last factor I'd like to say about, between the digital and, the real time is, okay, the teacher teaches, there's a whole spectrum of knowledge and methodology the teacher uses, but there is something called empathy that a good teacher has that cannot come across digitally. That empathy has to be, eye contact has to be there, the empathy has to be there. They have to identify the bright students, identify the students who might need that hand-holding, guiding, mentoring. Is that all possible? So I think digital is here to stay, but it can complement and supplement.
Thank you, ma'am. So we have online classes and virtual classrooms and the digital libraries and digital resources to replicate the actual classroom. That's what is actually the digital campus. As ma'am rightly pointed out, she actually mentioned there is a hybrid learning, the mixture of the online and offline classes, digital mixed with the actual offline classes where physically the students are present. She explained about that very well. And now let me move on to the third person, Dr. Vasuprada ma'am. the question for you is how to overcome the intellectual theft in the digital campuses, ma'am.
First of all, thank you, Priya, Preksha, and the Business World team. Very happy to be here and meet all of you. Before I go into the zone of intellectual theft, digital is disruptive. So we have no two ways about it. It is extremely disruptive. It's going to continue to be disruptive. So before we, deliberate around this theme, let me ask a question. How many of you have used Google Classroom or are using Google Classroom? Right? How many of you are using platforms, digital platforms like perhaps Coursera and other LMSs that is available to us? Yes, again, a lot of us. How many of you used Orkut? How many of you used Google Buzz? Resonates that name somewhere? There was something called Google Buzz. So we are using Google Classroom in many ways to integrate it within our pedagogy today. Now, it is at the top of our mind recall because we are using it today. But Google Buzz was something that was used a couple of decades ago. A lot of professors from the Western wing relied on it to actually diffuse their pedagogy among the student community. So what happened to this Google Buzz? So Google Buzz had to be shut down over a civil lawsuit. Remember the lengthy, I agree to all terms and conditions that we sign up for when we set up a Google account or any account for that matter. Do we read it? Perhaps. I have met a couple of them who have read end to end, but do they have a choice? If they say decline, do they get to still create an account? No. So it's a very fascinating platform, this digital realm that we have. So coming back to this Google Buzz case study that I'm talking about, overnight it was shut down. So what happened to all the resources? Of course, they did give all of us enough time to take backup, but it really doesn't work. How many of you even go back to your Microsoft Outlook account and look at your backup email when you leave an organization, join the next organization? So the data transferability is a huge question mark over here. And coming to the point of intellectual theft, we are in the muddled zone of trying to understand who wrote what. Yes, we have Urkund, Turnitin, we have top-notch plagiarism softwares today, but still, if I take a work that is published in 1858, I just type it out, my plagiarism softwares aren't going to recognize it. But that's intellectual theft again. So it is not something new that we are dabbling with. Intellectual theft has always been around, just that the replicability of it is stunning. So we talk about deep fakes, fake news and all of that, right? When we are talking about digital literacy and media literacy and all of these components. But what we forget is how easily it gets replicated today. Now, in traditional sense, if we try to understand an archive, right? So how do we imagine an archive? It is something that is perhaps stored in physical libraries, something that you can go and retrieve. So there's a lot of physicality to it. The materiality of it remains in the physical world. But today, when I'm talking about materiality, the digital materialization of it is stunning. Because if I just put a tweet, say this Business World conference is happening over here, and I tweet about it, my tweet becomes an archive almost instantaneously. So that's what we are dabbling with today. So intellectual theft isn't new. We have to continue to deliberate around it and try to find a solution. Won't be an absolute amicable solution, but this is the deliberative zone we are in.
Today, this conference was supposed to be an online conference. What would have happened? All of us would have participated somewhere from either Zoom or Microsoft Team and would have shared our thoughts. But then what would have missed, as ma'am rightly pointed out, our physically meeting each other, greeting each other and sharing our thoughts in person, we would have missed. Okay, the socialization would have been missed if it was actually a online conference, but then very fortunate we meet our old friends and greeting each other and spending our time with us. This is one advantage when we are going with the offline classes and the things. But today, if you look at that, today's kids are actually, technologically oriented. A 3-year-old kid, before started speaking the mother tongue, the boy or girl is able to install and uninstall an app. Very, comfortable with, dealing the touch screen and all those stuff. Very much surprised. At the same time, really, I am shocked. A few cases I witnessed, they started speaking very late. Earlier, kids started talking at the age of 2 and 1.5. But this particular case, what I witnessed, it's actually, 3 or 3.5 years. But then, since we are moving towards the digital, this is the need of the hour. Look at Coursera or maybe IGNOU. So the digital campuses, which are actually, doing a wonderful job. Even all the institutes, we are going towards the Coursera courses, right? It's online. We have a lot of flexibility in the schedule. Even after the class hours or our office hours, even after 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we can schedule the classes. So these kind of advantages are with these digital campuses. And let me move on to the next question to Dr. Ganganeni. Sir, what way does the digital campus help in transformation of the educational system?
So higher education, there is no, as our earlier speakers are also deliberating on that. There is no going back from digitalization. Digitalization is going to as a disruptive force because students are already they are digital natives. They are used to digital platforms when they come to higher education. And because nowadays what is becoming is students are demanding. Students are demanding customers to a university or a higher education institute. What type of activities we are offering? What type of extracurricular activities? What type of all these tools we are offering to them? Labs we are offering to them. So everything has to be in a digital format. And nowadays these tools like LinkedIn and Twitter, they are excellent platforms for some of the topics. And for example, I deal with finance and investments, where you have a big, Twitter is a university for investments and finance. There is a huge number of experts are collaborating, and it's a sort of user-centered learning, where huge amount of explosive knowledge is taking place. So as a digital campus, I should be able to facilitate and allow the students to access all these digital tools. And one more thing is that because this, as our speakers also pointed out, there is a problem with this attention economy because the student is unable to concentrate for more than 15 minutes. So how do we deal with in a digital context where his mind is wandering and is unable to concentrate for more than that? So some of our professors used to say, you try to introduce gamification. After 15 days, after 15 minutes, you start some quiz, you start some game. Like we used some tools like Kahoot, where the quiz can be organized online. So some sort of adoption. We have to adapt. You have to the change is the name of the game. Whether you have to change. Otherwise, the change will change us. Sort of environment.
Sir said that we are facing a lot of problems with the digital campuses. Of course, in 2020, after COVID-19, when we started conducting the online examinations, we had only the prior experience conducting the computer-based test in our own centers, in our own laboratories. But here the challenge was students were appearing from their home. They used sometimes, laptop or maybe tab or mobile phone, and, we didn't have a wide-angle camera. So when they involved in some kind of malpractices, it was really a very tough task to actually overcome. So we instructed them, there should not be any lip movement, or you should not look at upside or maybe moving here and there. It's not permitted. But still, it was a very tough challenge, tough task for us to overcome all these challenges. Now let's move on to next question to Dr. Malini ma'am. Ma'am, what do you think the impact of ChatGPT in the education sector?
Yeah, I think it's going to affect the education tremendously. One of the fields where it's going to really affect. And I think the way to overcome it is to move away from classroom teaching and rote learning and regurgitation of memorized knowledge in the exam. I think the teachers have more of a challenge than the students, because then the teachers have to change their entire approach and mindset to see what kind of questions, what kind of evaluation and testing can be done in such a way that even they can, bypass the chat GPT, because it seems to give answers to everything possible, sometimes wrong answers, sometimes fake answers. So I think the method of testing and evaluation will have to change drastically to face the challenge of ChatGPT. The teacher has to be brilliant to, not just to teach, but as I said, how do you test whether the student has absorbed the knowledge, analyzed? I think it will become more analytical skills. ChatGPT might just do that, but and the other impact would be I'm not sure you can have any more open book exam, an exam by multiple choice, or just go home and do something. It'll have to come back to classroom. You give only one question, you sit there and answer. It might have to come back to that. It's an evolving thing. We can't really predict at this moment to what extent it will be, but I think it's a challenge more to the faculty than to the students.
Is to maybe on the lighter side, we can give the answer and ask the chat GPT to form the question.
Yes.
So as ma'am rightly pointed out, it's good. Okay, please add on, ma'am.
Okay, two very interesting examples from the field. This time we had a paper called data visualization. So while teaching that paper, we realized that it's difficult for the kids, because it's an elective paper, to go and collect big data. So my students actually generated data sets asking ChatGPT to do so. And brilliant data sets on one side. Again, makes me really worried, because I wanted to test it first of all. So makes me really worried that how do we now distinguish between, what is real data and what is fake data. So as Baudrillard says, hyper-reality is the zone that we are in. That is one point. The other interesting point about ChatGPT is that there's another experiment my student did. So one particular person shared a screenshot of this, asked the ChatGPT a question. Let's assume any name, Vijay, Mary, John. So just say Mary's mother has 5 kids, and they list out the kids' names. What is the 5th kid name? So ChatGPT was not able to understand that it's Mary. So we are not there yet. It's going to take time. It's going to take more and more of data for it to become a robust system. Lots of examples, so I wouldn't take too much time. Probably after this, I can share a couple of other examples that we have come across.
Okay, ma'am.
Maybe I have read somewhere that ChatGPT flunked IIT exam. Maybe IIT style of questioning word to order.
So ChatGPT is going to be a big challenge for all of the faculty members. I would like to share one of my experience. 15 years or some 17 years ago, a neighbor boy, I tried to teach him what is oval, what is ellipse. I told him I was teaching engineering drawing. I am an expert, I explained. But then he replied, whatever his teacher taught him was final. Okay, fine, I am PhD qualified. I knew this very well, but then he was adamant. He didn't trust me. He said that the teacher's answer was final, fine. After 15 years, now the boy is actually doing +2. And he is a self-taught Python programmer and MySQL expert. I asked him how you become a self-taught expert. He replied me, no, I am not a self-taught expert. I am actually a ChatGPT taught expert. You won't believe that he, along with his school friends, he was performing much better than all other classmates. Actually, he didn't attend even a single class of the teacher who taught this Python programming and MySQL. Then he told me, this ChatGPT is excellent. Then I informed the same thing to one of my friend who is a professor in computer science and engineering. This is what my neighbor told me. What is your opinion? Then the computer professor told me, don't trust ChatGPT. It's giving all wrong answers. And this is what. Then I conveyed the same thing to my neighbor. And he told me, uncle, actually, your professor is very scared of ChatGPT. it is performing exceptionally well, 1 lakh time more powerful than all your teachers put together. And of course, it's not updated. The data is only up to 2021. Once, Chat GPT 4.0 is coming, you will see the, other challenges. This is what he responded. So as a teacher, as the principal, I was so shocked how to conclude this conversation. Then I decided to, go with the Chat GPT, ask the same question, what is the impact of Chat GPT, in education field? Do you know what is the answer given by Chat GPT? It said that it is a very nice learning tool, but then, the human thinking, human behavior is actually missing in this education system. So with this, I concluded the, topic with my neighbor. So let me come to the next question. This question is to Dr. Vasuprada ma'am. Ma'am, since you touched upon the digital archives, I want to ask you, digital embeddedness, data visibility and politics, digital materiality, you may explain briefly, ma'am.
Right. It's a very complex domain that we are talking about. We are talking about developing a lot of digital footprints. So there are varied, zones or standpoints that I can take while trying to understand this issue. If I take the standpoint of an ordinary citizen, the kind of digital footprints that we leave, is it going to get mapped back to us? There is a self in the physical world, and then there's a digitally embodied self. Are both getting mapped onto each other? Definitely yes. So there was a journalist who was working for Washington Post. So when this particular very, very famous journalist posted a tweet, what happened immediately was he got suspended. Why? Because what he had tweeted was inaccurate. It was just, it happens to all of us, right? We all commit errors, and especially when we are following games. So this particular person is a sports columnist. So it wasn't expected of the sports columnist to tweet wrongly, wrong information about the game. So in the physical world, did he pay a price for it? Yes, was suspended for a couple of weeks. So this is the kind of digital mapping that is happening. I don't need to open the Pandora's box of how this actually impacts a lot of people who seek asylum, a lot of them who actually come from other nations asking for citizenship. So it is a very interesting, strong aspect. Data extraction is very strong over here. So when we are talking about data extraction, again, do we have the policies? Do we have the rules? Do we have the procedures? No, we don't. So I would like to, conclude this part by asking again a question. Being a professor inherently, I'm not able to stop myself from interacting with all of you. So again, a set of questions for you. How many of you have used digital tools? All of us. How many of you have used a mobile phone? How many of you own a television set? All of us. Generic questions, right? How many of you owned a pager those days? But pager is gone today, right? Television sets, telephones are still traveling with us. We may argue that its intensity has come down, it's gone up. The point I'm trying to make here is these were made a development marker by the governments at a policy formulation stage. Now, digitalization or digital, classrooms, all of this should percolate into the system as a policy decision. Only then will we have a structured argument around it. Otherwise, it's going to be like, I will say something, we'll all say something together, but at the end of it, we won't have any outcome. So unless and until we map, if we want to bring a digital classroom into our systems in our colleges and university, is UGC recognizing it as a teaching hour. So 16 hours of teaching is compulsory. So how many hours are we willing to allocate for experimenting around this zone? Because we can't expect outcome right away. It's going to take a while for us to understand this mystifying turf of online world. But we should invest time in it. It's important.
This digital mapping is because all of us like recommender systems. So they recommend you like these movies or you like these books and all these things. So this in order to get that recommender systems, digital mapping is one of.
Yeah, right. See, my daughter scrolls through my Twitter. I don't know. She loves the symbol heart. So she's pressing heart randomly. And before I notice, perhaps there are 15 likes. So I can't be mapped onto that. That's not me. So these are the issues that we have.
Okay, ma'am. So to add on to what ma'am said, how many of, when you visited your bank the last time? I mean, physically when you went to your bank last time? Maybe 1 year ago? 3 years ago, that's right. This morning, ma'am, and okay, fine. For me personally, I went to the bank last time before COVID-19 lockdown, maybe 2019, because today everything is in our mobile phone. We can do the net banking, mobile app, we can do all the transactions. So the digital is the need of the hour. So we cannot stop that. Definitely the digital classrooms are going to come, and we cannot actually stop that.
I'm tempted to add this because digital is okay, it's on a binary mode almost. When you have gray areas and you have questions, you have to meet that person. So I think the same thing would apply for classrooms. You can learn everything, but unless there's a teacher to guide, I think the education part is lost. The communication is okay.
Right, ma'am. So next, I would like to move on to Dr. Gangineni. The question is, will digital campus enhance the quality of teaching learning process? Please share your thoughts, sir.
I think my answer is definite yes, because we are going to use it as a complementary to our physical classes. So various digital tools can enhance the experience of the students, and also faculty also will benefit greatly. They can reach more people, scale. I can scale my lecture to, if there is a recorded lecture, I can reach more people, and my website can contain my PPTs, my lecture schedules, lecture plans, and the students also, they have their experience of the subject is more pronounced, and they can definitely, we have to complement all these digital tools with our physical aids. That's my.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So, ma'am, you were an administrator, an IAS officer. So, I would like to ask you this important question: how to tackle the attitude issues of the students in the digital era, and then digital campus and its impact of the affinity between the teachers and the students.
Okay, I think the first question I will say, I'll go back to principles of Indian institutions. They have a compulsion of attendance. Okay? I have never understood why there should be that compulsion. I keep questioning it all the time in my institution. If the teacher is very good, there is 100% attendance, there are people wanting to come and audit the course, the class is overflowing, and if you go into the social media and internet, you will find these warm outpourings of how they learned so much from a teacher. Okay? So I think, is it an impediment or not? Very largely depends on the equation between the teacher and the student, their ability to hold the attention, the ability to transfer a knowledge in a seamless way. Your second question I'm going to answer by sharing experience I had. I had occasion, very fortunate to have a discussion with Professor Kamakoti as soon as he took over as director of IIT. I asked this question because I'm not a career educationalist. I said I need to know why attendance is compulsory. Is attendance compulsory? So he said you are absolutely right. Attendance is something that is not really mandatory, but it could lead to certain, it can give you a data. It gives you a data. And then the next thing he explained was extraordinary. He said when he was a professor, he found that there were 1 or 2 students not attending the class continuously. So it is, but for the attendance, he would not have known that these are the students who didn't attend the class. But as a committed professor, he got into it and he said, why are they not attending the class? So he actually found out that the student came from a background where they were not feeling very comfortable in this IIT, was not gelling with the rest of them, and not attending the class. Then he took the trouble of finding out why, what, who are his friends, etc. And then he found out this boy likes chocolates. This boy would not meet anybody. He would be holed up in the hostel. So then he took chocolates and he went to his hostel room. This is not when he was director, when he was teaching. And then he told the boy, okay, today no class. I'm not going to ask you why you didn't come to class, why you didn't attend class. Let's just have chocolates. And then slowly drew him into class. Now, can the digital university do this? It goes back to, if you are a teacher, if you are committed, it comes with a lot of passion in the classroom and a lot of empathy for the student. So that affinity is something that the digital one cannot create affinity, that's for sure. But it's also up to the teacher. For example, when you get students into a classroom, they may come with differing degrees of familiarity with that digital tool. They may not have had a smartphone, they may not know how to use a computer. So it's up to that teacher to actually guide and mentor that student along and actually create that interest and sensitization so that there is affinity even on a digital mode between the student and the teacher.
It definitely is. Huge, huge threat. Do we have enough checks and balances in the system? We don't have it yet. So just to understand a little bit more around this, we are talking a lot about digital campus. I think the security, the theft part of it, whether all of these questions come much, much later. What we are not talking about is the access and affordability. On one side, yes, we may have teams within our own institutions trying to further digitality of our courses, of pedagogically, how do we do better, all of that. But on the other side, we are forgetting the basics. It is like what I heard in the Irulas community, all of them had laptops, all of them had a basic net pack, access to mobile pack, but 8 hours, there was no electricity. Right? So no one can sustain that cycle of energy deficiency. So this brings, that's why I said policy formulations are very important. Unless and until it comes effectively as part of policies, whoever would be the institutions involved, be it at the state level, be it at the consortium level, only then can we make some kind of a leadway into the security deliberation.
Okay, so I request to give the final remarks.
Wonderful discussion. That one final conclusion which is coming is that digital is inevitable, and combination of both physical and digital, and the teacher's empathy cannot be replaced by digital, but only we can enhance the experience of the students by using various digital tools. And in the interest of time, I think.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, you are okay. Okay, fine. Now let me come to the conclusion. Actually, Ola and Uber, we are booking the cars using our mobile phone. But then once they are coming to our home, we have to physically travel by the car. Same applicable for whether Swiggy or Zomato. We are placing the order using our app. But then when the delivery boy is bringing it to our home, we have to have the food physically. So though there is a digital involvement, digital alone cannot survive. There is actually a blended learning or hybrid mode actually will solve the purpose. And as all the dignitaries rightly pointed out, the green memories, as a student group, when we are spending our time together, the green memories and the beautiful campuses, number of acres built IITs or other reputed campuses, we cannot just miss by attending the digital classes. So digital campus is the need of the hour, but digital alone cannot solve the purpose. Let me conclude saying that in the education institutions, we are not only transferring just the knowledge, but also the culture, the values, and how to behave, the human values, everything we are transferring. So this is possible only with the offline classes when the students are physically coming to the college. So at any point of time, these physical classes cannot be replaced. At the same time, we cannot forget about these digital campuses. That is the need of the hour. The future is going to be most likely the blended learning and the hybrid mode. With this, I would like to thank the dignitaries on the stage and the patience listening of all the audience. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to thank the business world for the opportunity given. Thank you, everyone.